Hi. Official recaps here.
The story begins by jumping back and forth between the lives of our two protagonists in Russia. First, there is Dominika Egorova, a famous ballerina that is in charge of taking care of her sick mom. After a visit to the doctor, Dominika leaves her mother with a caretaker so she can go to work. She changes and applies makeup in the theater before greeting her uncle Ivan Egorov, the deputy director of the Russian Secret Service. He presents her to Dmitry Ustinov, a Russian mobster who approaches her for a photo and seizes the opportunity to inappropriately touch her. The play starts a few moments later, and Dominika is dancing as beautifully as ever when all of a sudden, his dancing partner jumps and lands on her leg, breaking it. Dominika is taken to the operating room right away. The other character we follow is CIA agent Nate Nash, who is answering a call from an automated system that speaks some words aloud to him. Using those words, he deciphers the address of a meeting place, and he leaves with his gun. When he gets to the park at night, the designated location for the covert meeting, he discovers that a car is following him. As they cross the street, Nate gives something to the enigmatic man going by the name of Marble before they continue as if nothing had happened. But the car is still pursuing him, so Nate shoots the floor to divert attention and takes off while the car follows. This gives the man a chance to escape. As soon as he gets to the American embassy in town, he is surrounded by police. He meets with his superiors inside, who inform him that although the asset is secure, Nate will still be returned to the United States due to his error. The following day, Ivan goes to the office of Colonel Zakharov, the head of the Secret Service, where General Vladimir Korchnoi is also present. They show Ivan a video of Nate and him meeting at the park, mentioning that Nate is a CIA agent who left the country that morning. However, they are more interested in identifying this other man. When Dominika discovers her leg is inside a metal frame upon awakening at the hospital, we cut to her sobbing realization that she will never be able to dance again. After 3 months, Ivan pays Dominika a visit. She is still using a cane to walk. He remarks on how the theater had been lending them the apartment and paying for her mother's medical bills, but that will soon come to an end now that she is no longer employed by them, and that a replacement for her has already been found. Ivan asks her to come to him when she's ready and says he wants to help. Before he leaves her an envelope. When Dominika opens the envelope, she discovers that her dancing partner has been having romantic relations with her replacement. She also discovers a recording of their conversation, which suggests that he intentionally jumped on her so that his girlfriend could replace Dominika. Later on in the day, Dominika is seen watching the new girl and her ex-partner rehearse in the theater. When they're finished, Dominika follows them into the steam room where she discovers them having sex. Dominika loses control of her temper and beats the two of them until they are on the ground before fleeing. When she notices that her hands are bloodstained on the bus ride home, she decides to get off and use a payphone to report the incident as an accident. Upon reaching her apartment, she discovers her mother on the bathroom floor, with no sign of the caretaker. Her mother explains that she didn't come because the theater had stopped paying her. Dominika visits her uncle to beg for assistance, realizing she is at a loss for what to do. He agrees to help as long as she assists him in return with a small case. Dominika had met Ustinov at the theater, and the Secret Service is interested in learning more about him. Ivan wishes for her to come up to him, make a friend with him, and win his trust with her charm. Ivan persuades Dominika to change her mind after she initially rejects him by reminding her of how bad state hospitals are and how he can provide her mom with the best doctors. Wearing the given dress, Dominika visits the hotel where Ustinov is staying that very evening. She heads to the bar in anticipation of Ustinov approaching her initially, which he does. They head to her room after Dominika tells him she came to see him because she wants to feel special once more. As soon as his men leave the room, Ustinov begins undressing and asks Dominika to follow suit. She requests that the guards grant them privacy. She hesitates for a moment before doing so, and Ustinov takes advantage of her right away as soon as she gets closer. A man with a black helmet suddenly emerges behind Ustinov and slashes his throat, breaking off their sexual encounter. The man throws the body to the ground, makes a gesture requesting silence, then throws Dominika a coat over her bloody body and leads her out of the room via the back door. Inside, the man removes his helmet to reveal Sergei Matorin, another agent sent by Ivan for Secret Service, who is in the same building as Korchnoi and is watching Dominika on security cameras in a different room. Ivan says she might be helpful when Korchnoi says she's a witness and should be removed. Ivan admits he knew what would happen in that room and kept it from her since he knew she wouldn't have done it. He then switches rooms to see Dominika. He then extends an offer to her, saying that because she is so skilled at this, she can be sent to a special school to receive training to become an agent. She can only accept since he can't protect her if she says no. 2 days later, Dominika departs for the institution. The Sparrow School's headmistress, Matron, welcomes her when she gets there. Before showing Dominika to her room, she gives her a false name to use at school. Shortly after, classes begin. Matron talks about how the modern world is in disarray and how Russia is the only nation prepared to make the necessary sacrifices to bring it back to order. The pupils will receive training to become sparrows, spies with a focus on psychological manipulation and seduction. When asked to strip in front of the class, Dominika and a student by the name of Victor comply without any problems, but Dominika lacks the courage. For that, Matron chastises her. The scene cuts to Nate, who has been called before the CIA's discipline panel to be told that he will be suspended due to his error in Russia and that he is not permitted to leave the nation. Marble, their mole, has been working with Nate for 3 years and won't trust anyone else, so Nate objects, but he doesn't get listened. In a lesson with Matron back at the Sparrow School, she informs them that they must be able to discern what their targets desire. She puts some videos on TV for examples for them to work on. The first one Victor guesses wrong and Dominika corrects him, earning her his dislike. The second is guessed by another female student, who is called to the front of the class and told she will have to use her mouth on the man from the video, who is brought into the classroom in cuffs. The girl gets on her knees but is incapable of doing it, she falls to the floor crying. Back in the USA, Nate notices he's being tailed and informs his superiors of this. He learns that the CIA hasn't heard anything from Marble and he takes the chance to remind them he will talk if it's Nate that contacts him. They reach a deal. He can't still go back to Russia, but they can send him to a country nearby so the Russian Secret Service will know he's around and Marble will resurface. Nate accepts for the team to come with him. Meanwhile, in the school, the students are asked to give a welcome to a group of soldiers that just returned home from war. Dominika selects a young man and leads him to her room, where she manages to assist him. After watching all the videos of the students' performances with the soldiers later that day, Matron tells Dominika that while her technique was good, she still hasn't learned to surrender. When Dominika leaves class and goes to the shower, Victor attacks her. She uses the wall-mounted water tap as self-defense, striking him with it. Ivan, Korchnoi, and Zakharov are talking about Nate's relocation to Budapest in the interim. They know the president doesn't want them to take any action that could be interpreted as hostile toward the United States, but they still want to do something about it. Matron and a recently arrived Korchnoi question Dominika about her attack on Victor back at the Sparrow School. Although Korchnoi requests a private moment with Matron, when he re-interviews Dominika after the other students have left, she clarifies that she is obligated to the state and not her classmate. She is permitted to return to class, where Korchnoi observes from a security camera as Matron calls her to the front once more. As Victor walks into the room, Dominika is shown a picture of him and asked what he wants. Matron gives her the order to fulfill his request. Dominika is asked by Victor to turn around, but she refuses and moves on. As she undresses, he instructs Victor to focus solely on her, and when she is fully nude, she sits on the table with her legs wide open, encouraging him to take her. Victor can't stand it and flees as she makes fun of him for it. Then Dominika responds to Matron's query, stating that he desires power. Impressed is Korchnoi. Shortly after, Matron has another private meeting with Dominika and informs her that she will be returning to Moscow. A few days later, Dominika gets a call telling her to meet Ivan at a restaurant while she is visiting her mother again. When she arrives, she sits down with him and he tells her of her next assignment, which is to go to Budapest and win Nate's trust in order to find out who their mole is. He gives her new documents bearing her new name and a new passport. A few days later, she arrives in Budapest, where she checks into an apartment to live with Marta, another Sparrow. She meets with Station Chief Maxim Volontov later that day and requests some information about Nate from him. She then follows Nate about to become familiar with his routine. The following day, Dominika begins accompanying Nate to the same pool, allowing him to go to her as they exit the building. They engage in some small talk, but Dominika acts aloof and fabricates a tale about working as an interpreter for the embassy. But when she doesn't see Nate at the pool the next day, the receptionist informs her that her ID has vanished. It turns out that Nate is aware of her deception from the beginning. We then cut to him telling his bosses that she has been going by multiple names and connecting the dots to Ivan. He believes that she is valuable and that it is provocative for her to go by her true name. His superiors finally give in and let him approach her in order to obtain intelligence. Dominika visits the embassy after going to Volontov to report on her progress and request an embassy pass. There, she observes Marta conversing with American politician Stephanie Busha. Nate stops her from staring at her and starts talking, confessing that he took her ID from the pool. He then invites her to dinner at 8 the following day. Dominika nods before heading out. She follows Volontov into a bar the following day after work and begs him to buy her time with a better report. After making fun of his small member, she provokes him into punching her. Now that his violence is captured on camera, Dominika threatens to take the recording to the police or ask him to write a better report. Nate is waiting for his date alone in a restaurant while all of this is going on. He walks out of the place, thinking he's been stood up, but Dominika is right behind him. Once he gets back to his apartment, Nate gets another coded message on his phone, which he quickly decodes and writes down. This one is from Vienna. Just as he is about to leave, Dominika rings his bell and begs to come in. As they sip whiskey together, Dominika tells him that his boss raped him. She turns up the TV volume so that Nate can't hear her when he asks how she knows where he lives. When he tells her what transpired in that Russian park, Dominika asks him and gives him a kiss. Nate advises her to return home and consider her desires. Ivan visits Dominika the following day before departing for Vienna. Their superiors are growing impatient, so he inquires about her progress with Nate. She tells him, under false pretenses, that she's also assisting Marta with her Busha case, but she'll need more money to buy some time. Ivan agrees and requests his coat to be taken away. However, Dominika sneaks a peek at his passport first. Later on, Dominika travels to Vienna to open a bank account. When Dominika gets home that evening, she discovers Marta dead in the bathtub. She is suddenly confronted by Sergei, who grabs her by the neck and warns her that this is what happens to people who share secrets. In addition, before he leaves, he advises her to phone the police. There, we cut to Nate reporting to his superiors about his Vienna meeting with Marble. Dominika is even more appealing to Nate because Marble has provided him with files proving she is a sparrow. Dominika is being questioned by the police in the meantime, but she remains silent. When she exits the precinct, Nate is waiting for her outside. Once they return to his home, he admits that he is aware that she is a sparrow. In response, Dominika shares her story with him, emphasizing how much her mother's welfare is all that matters to her. She responds that she needs to go to bed when Nate asks her to act as a double agent for him, promising to protect her. He offers her his space. She exits the room and meets Nate on the touch later that evening. She makes love to him after asking if she can trust him and receiving a positive response. After confirming that she accepts his offer the following morning, Dominika has a meeting with Nate's superiors and undergoes a liar detector test to determine her reliability. She requests money as soon as she is accepted. They make fun of her, but when she tells them she can give them Busha, they start to feel differently. The group takes a Friday flight to London to meet with Busha. The CIA had Dominika stay in a special hotel room with security cameras to watch over her and a set of discs under a desk that can be swapped out for the real ones at a later time. A short while later, as she waits for Busha at the bar, he is taken aback by Volantov's unexpected arrival, who purports to be trying to assist. If he doesn't go to Dominika's room, Busha will get scared off. Soon after, Busha shows up, and Dominika goes to greet her, telling her that Busha was sent by Marta. Busha is ready to leave because she doesn't like this change, but Dominika talks her out of it by showing her some scary pictures and bringing up the money. Both women go to Dominika's room where Volantov is waiting. Busha gives her the discs in exchange for the money, and Dominika pretends to take the discs to her computer to check they're real when she's actually trading them with the CIA's. Dominika and Volantov leave then after telling Busha to wait an hour to leave too, but Busha is anxious and drunk so she leaves soon after. When she makes it to the street, she notices she's being followed and gets scared, so she throws the money in a trash can and crosses the street where a truck hits and kills her. Dominika is in a car with Volantov when this happens, and he quickly gets the news on the phone. He tells Dominika they've been given orders to return to Moscow immediately and takes her passport. When they make it to Moscow, Ivan takes the discs from Volantov before arresting him. Both he and Dominika are under suspicion of having helped the Americans. When asked about it, she denies it, so she starts being tortured in different ways for the real answer, but she doesn't give in. They even show her a video of how Volantov was shot for lying, but when the interrogator points at her head and she lies again, nothing happens. At that point, Ivan seizes control, but Dominika is able to trick him into defending her. She is permitted to go back home, but she refuses to give her mother a hug because she feels so unclean. Upon returning home from a trying meeting with Korchnoi and Zakharov, Ivan finds Dominika waiting at his apartment. She gives him a kiss before leaving after he informs her that her request to continue working on Nate has been granted. When Dominika gets back to Budapest, she meets Nate. They head to his apartment, where he shares his misgivings about her hasty departure. Dominika awakens in the middle of the night to the sound of something, goes to the kitchen, and discovers Sergei abusing Nate. At first, she acts as though she is supporting him, even going so far as to injure Nate in order to get the mole's name. However, she strikes him back and assists Nate in severing the straps binding him to the chair when Sergei becomes sidetracked. A brief altercation breaks out between the three of them when Sergei trips and Dominika seizes the opportunity to stab him. The following day, she awakens in the hospital and goes out of her room to smoke. Then Korchnoi approaches her and introduces himself as Marble. He begs Dominika to reveal him so she can become a national hero and take his place as a mole because he believes he will be discovered soon and he doesn't want to die in vain. Though she doesn't definitively respond to him, she follows him out and then heads out to see how Nate is doing. She turns herself in to the police and demands to see the Russian ambassador. When she is brought before him, she informs him that she will give him the name of the mole in exchange for her freedom and instructs him to call Zakharov. Later that evening, an airport is scheduled to host a meeting to conduct the exchange. To verify the mole's identity, Nate will accompany her on a walk. If she tries to flee, she risks being shot. Nate is upset with her because he feels that she has taken advantage of him, but she has a surprise in store for him. When the Russians approach them carrying the mole, they remove the bag from his face to reveal that her uncle Ivan has been falsely accused of being Korchnoi. Dominika has been fabricating evidence ever since she traveled to Budapest for the first time. Following the exchange, Dominika is flown off in a helicopter and Ivan is shot by a Russian sniper. Back in Russia, she's named a heroine and allowed to have a good life with her mom. The movie ends when she receives a phone call and the only sound on the line is her favorite song.
If you enjoyed this video, Hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.